My name is Sheinelle Jones, and it has been 9 months since I lost my husband. Even now, saying those words out loud still feels unfamiliar, as if they belong to someone else's life and not my own. Time has moved forward, yet part of me remains anchored to the moment everything changed. This journey, this life after loss, is not something I ever prepared for, and yet it is the road I now walk every single day. When my husband died, the world did not stop the way I thought it would. The sun still rose. People still went to work. Cars still filled the streets. And somehow, that felt unbearable. I remember thinking, how can everything look the same when my entire life has just fallen apart? There was a strange disconnect between the world outside and the storm raging inside me. I felt invisible, like I was screaming in a room full of people who couldn't hear me. In the earliest days of my grief, shock carried me. It wrapped around me like a numb blanket, dulling the sharpest edges of pain. I moved through those days almost mechanically. I smiled when I was supposed to smile. I answered questions. I signed papers. I accepted condolences. But inside, I was hollow. I could hear people speaking to me, but their words felt distant, as if they were echoing through a long tunnel. Then the shock wore off, and the reality settled in. That was when the grief truly arrived. I remember waking up one morning and really realizing that my husband was not coming back. That there would be no phone call, no explanation, no sudden miracle. He was gone. The weight of that truth pressed down on my chest so hard that it felt difficult to breathe. I sat on the edge of the bed and cried until I had no tears left, wondering how a heart could hurt so much and still keep beating. Grief changed everything. It changed the way time moved. Days felt endless, yet weeks passed in a blur. I could spend hours staring at the wall, lost in memories, replaying moments I wished I could relive just one more time. His voice, his laugh, the way he would look at me when he thought I wasn't paying attention. Those memories became both my comfort and my torment. The house felt different without him. Too quiet, too still. Every room held reminders of our life together. His clothes were still in the closet. His shoes still by the door. His favorite mug still sitting in the cabinet. At first, I couldn't bring myself to move anything. Touching his belongings felt like erasing him, and I wasn't ready for that. Some days, I would sit on the bed and hold one of his shirts, breathing in whatever trace of him I could still find. Simple tasks became overwhelming. Making dinner felt pointless. Folding laundry felt exhausting. Answering messages felt impossible. I would pick up my phone, read a kind text from a friend, and then put it back down without responding, not because I didn't care, but because I didn't know how to put my pain into words. And yet, I had to keep going. I had children who depended on me. They were grieving too, each in their own way, and they looked to me for comfort, for answers, for reassurance. I tried to be strong for them. I tried to hold myself together in front of them. But there were moments when I would excuse myself, go into another room, and let the tears fall silently. One of the hardest things was trying to explain loss to my children, while still trying to understand it myself. They asked questions I didn't have answers to. Why did this happen? Is Daddy okay? Will we see him again? I wanted to take their pain away, to protect them from the sadness, but I couldn't. All I could do was sit with them, hold them, and remind them that they were loved. Grief is unpredictable. Some days I felt almost normal, as if I might be learning how to live again. Then, without warning, the pain would crash over me. A song on the radio, a familiar scent, a memory that surfaced out of nowhere. Suddenly, I would be overwhelmed, tears streaming down my face in the middle of a grocery store, or while sitting at a red light. The emotional pain was relentless. It felt like carrying a heavy weight everywhere I went, a constant reminder of what I had lost. Nights were especially hard. The quiet amplified everything. Lying in bed alone, I felt the absence of my husband more intensely than at any other time. There were nights when sleep wouldn't come, when my mind replayed every moment, every conversation, every what if. I missed the little things, most the everyday moments we never think to cherish until they're gone. The way he would check in with me during the day. The sound of his footsteps in the house. The comfort of knowing someone was always there. Losing him wasn't just losing a partner, it was losing a sense of safety, of certainty, of home. There were moments when I questioned my own strength. I wondered if I was doing enough, being enough for my children, for myself. I felt guilty when I laughed, as if joy somehow betrayed my grief. I felt guilty when I cried, worrying that my sadness would weigh too heavily on those around me. Grief came with so many contradictions, so many emotions that seemed to clash with one another. Eventually, I realized that pushing my feelings away was only making things worse. I couldn't outrun my grief. I couldn't pretend it didn't exist. I had to face it fully, honestly, and without judgment. I started allowing myself to feel whatever came up, even when it was uncomfortable. Especially when it was uncomfortable. I talked to friends who listened without trying to fix me. I leaned on family who reminded me that I didn't have to do this alone. I sought professional help, even though asking for it felt like admitting weakness. But I learned that seeking help is not weakness, it is courage. It is choosing to survive. One of the most meaningful steps in my healing journey was creating a memory book for my husband. I poured my heart into it. I wrote down stories from our life together, the big moments and the small ones. I included photos, letters, and little keepsakes that reminded me of him. Some days, writing felt healing. Other days, it broke my heart all over again. But through it all, it helped me honor his life and our love. As the months passed, I slowly began to notice subtle changes within myself. The pain was still there, but it didn't consume every moment the way it once did. I could breathe a little easier. I could go longer without crying. I could talk about my husband without completely falling apart most of the time. There was a turning point I didn't expect. I was at a dinner with friends, sitting at a table filled with laughter and conversation. For the first time in a long while, I felt a flicker of joy. It startled me. I almost pushed it away. But then I realized something important. Life was still happening, and I was still part of it. That moment didn't mean I was done grieving. It didn't mean I loved my husband any less. It simply meant that I was still alive, and I had permission to live. I began to reintroduce small things that brought me comfort. I went for walks. I spent time outdoors. I picked up books again. I allowed myself moments of peace without feeling guilty. Healing didn't happen all at once, it happened in tiny steps, often unnoticed until I looked back. My children continued to be my greatest source of strength. Their resilience amazed me. One evening, they asked me to tell them stories about their dad. I hesitated, worried it would be too painful. But as I spoke, something beautiful happened. We laughed. We cried. We remembered. And in that moment, I realized that sharing his memory didn't trap us in grief, it helped us move forward together. 9 months later, I am still learning. I still have hard days. I still miss my husband deeply. Grief didn't disappear, it changed. It softened in some places and deepened in others. It became part of who I am, shaping me in ways I never expected. I have learned that grief is not something you get over. It is something you learn to carry. And while it may always be heavy, it does not have to define every moment of your life. There is room for sorrow and joy to exist side by side. There is room for healing, even when the loss is permanent. If you are walking through loss, I want you to hear this: you are not broken. You are not weak. You are grieving because you love deeply. Take your time. Be gentle with yourself. Ask for help when you need it. And remember, you do not have to walk this path alone. Thank you for listening to my story. If you are navigating your own journey through grief, I invite you to share it. Together, we can remind each other that even after unimaginable loss, strength, resilience, and hope can still be found. Thanks for the watching and subscribe.